Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I welcome you all to the lecture number 13 for the course of Computer Networks and Internet Working. My name is Engineer Jaffar Ali and I'm an instructor for this course. So this is the first part of the lecture number 13. So in the last lecture we have discussed about a protocol named as SNMP, that is Simple Network Management Protocol. This protocol basically depends on two devices, or you can say two control bodies or entities. The first one is known as manager and the second one is known as agent. The manager is basically a host that basically runs the SNMP client program, and agent is can be a router, or you can say that runs that server program. So this was the previous lecture. This was the architecture of SNMP, that is Simple Network Management Protocol, when we have discussed quite of the messages and services that is produced by this SNMP, and we have also discussed the components of this SNMP, that was SMI, that is Structure of Management Information, and the second one was MIB, that is Management Information Based, and we looked at how these devices or these entities basically holds this MIB and it communicates with the NMS system, that is Network Management System. So this was the previous lecture, and let's go towards today's lecture. So today's lecture will be about another protocol that is basically on the application layer. So this protocol is known as FTP, or you can call it File Transfer Protocol. So this will be covered in the first part. In the later part of the lecture, in the part 2, we will be discussing TFTP, that is Trivial File Transfer Protocol. So let's get started. So this is the brief of today's lecture. The first thing that we want to know in this lecture is basically to make you understand the connections that are needed for the FTP file transfer. You know that FTP is basically a protocol that is used for the transfer of any files. We will also discuss some of its practical commands as well, and I will make sure that you are familiar with these commands and their responses by the end of this lecture. And in the last, we will be starting TFTP, and at the last of the second part of the lecture we will be knowing about the differences of this FTP with respect to TFTP. So let's start the discussion on this FTP. This FTP is basically a standard mechanism that is provided to you actually by IETF on the same bodies that basically made protocols, and this protocols basically provide or allows you to copy a file from one host to another host, or from one device to another device. So this basically use the service of TCP, and we have discussed about the TCP in the very much detail in lecture number 4 or 5, I guess, in which I discussed this TCP, UDP and SMTP, SCTP, that is Stream Control Transmission Protocol. We also discussed that too. This TCP requires two kind of connections. The first one is known as the control connection, and the second one is known as the data connection. You know already that. So the port that is used for the control connection is basically the port number 21, and the port that is used for the data connection specifically is basically port 20. So these are the two ports that are basically associated with this TCP connection, and this is the basic the mechanism, or you can say the flow control of this FTP. So this is the user that is basically connected to the application layer, and this is the user interface, and there is a control process which basically converts this user interface to a specific type of data, or you can say or a shape, or you can format, so that this communication is being done. And this is your TCP IP layer, that is also known as, this is a network layer, and you can see that this is your client and this is server, and the data has been transferred from one device to another device with the use of this FTP protocol. So control connection stays connected during the entire session, and data connection can be opened or closed for each file after before and after transfer. So connection control will be control connection will be always there, and it will not end until the session is end. If once the session is going to end, only then the control connection is going to be terminated, unless and until this will be available for all the time.
but this data connection is not that frequent of presence because of its need. So this connection will only be opening only for the transferring of file. Once the transfer of file has been done, this connection will go on the terminate mode. So this is basically your FTP. Now, how this opening of control connection works in the TCP. So you can see that this is your port number 21 for the control port. I have already told you that this port number 21 is there for control processes, and this port number 20 is actually there for the data transfer files, or you can say data connection. So this port will working on the principle of passive and active opening. So this will be passive open and this will be active open, and passive open is always done by the server and active open always done by the client. So the client will temporarily pick a port number randomly. It will be a random port number just for the correct opening of a connection. Once the connection is established, after then it will start the transferring of that file. Excuse me. So for the data connection, this is basically how this data connection is being created. So you can see that this was done in the previous slide, that once the connection control is basically established, then only you basically initiate the transfer of the file. So this will be passive open, and then there will be active open. This one will be active open. Let's see how this works. So for a data connection, this client issues the passive open first. So this basically this client will open the file name as passive open, and after that the client sends the port number to the server using the port command. So this will be sent using this control connection. You can see that once the client has opened its passive open port for the incoming file, it will also send its port number on which this server can send their file. Is basically this is port number 63,000. So you can see that this is your passive open, and after the server receive the file from the user, or you can say the client, it will send, or you can say open its active open its port number 20 to send that file onto the port number that was received over here by the server from the client. So this is the whole scenario of how this data connection is being established. So this is two-step process. Two major steps are involved. The first one is the opening of this control process, and this is done by passive opening by the port number 21 from the server side. And later on, if this it is received on the client side, the client will respond back by the first thing that the client will do is basically it's opening its passive open this port, and it is also sending the port address to the server using the same port that was port number 21 using the control connection. And after that the server will respond back using the server will start transferring the file by using the port number 20, and it will be responding to the port number 60,000 just it was sent from the client towards the server. So this is the whole scenario of how this FTP actually works. Now, how can you use this control connection? So you know that the client and the server can be different systems. So it is not possible. It is not conditional that they should be these two systems must be same. So there must be some of the differences, and even different OS they can use this command, or you can say this type NVT ASCII set, and it is also known as that it is also very popular in the telnet to communicate across the connection control. So usually a series of commands, simple commands and responses are there to control this kind of connection. So this is a kind of connection NVT ASCII. Let me tell you about the detail of it. So this NVT is ASCII is basically nothing but network. Let me write it down for you. It is network virtual terminal, and you know about the ASCII. I hope that you know about the ASCII, network virtual terminal, and this terminal is basically used for the transferring of files. Terminal. So sorry for the writing. So this NVD ASCII is basically nothing but a protocol, or you can say a definition through which this protocol actually works on. This NVT is Network Virtual Terminal, and this ASCII is basically the code. So this is overall, this is you can say a set or a subset of ASCII characters, and it is basically evolved from the same ASCII codes, and it was defined in the ANSI standards, and but it is basically upgraded version of a basic ASCII, or you can say ANSI. So let's move ahead. But before going through that, let's talk about this diagram. So you can see that this is your control process for the client, and this is your control process for the server, and these both are communicating with each other using some ports, and there one be active port, there another one will be the passive port, and this is the control connection, and this is working on NVT ASCII. So this is not the case every time. You can use any other mechanism you want, but this is mostly used. That is why I have mentioned it over here. So how this data transfer works? So this is your data transfer process for the client, and this is your data transfer process for the server. This ASCII code basically, this supports this code basically, this mechanism supports the FTP file transfer. That is why this is the main reason that for which we have written it over here. And so this is the diagram for the representation of the how you can use data connection. So this is your data transfer process for the client, and this is your data transfer process for the server, and these are some local memories or data structure that are attached with it, so that you can copy or move any file you want to a memory location. And these are two ports. You can see that these are two ports, and in between that port there is a data connection, and this data connection can be of any type, file type, data structure, or transmission mode. Basically it is defined by the client that which type of data connection he wants or she wants. So the file type can be ASCII and EBC and DIC, file or image file. You know that these are different formats of the information that is stored by the system. The system does not store the correct alphabets, but it stores information in the name of or in the shape of the digits. So that is how this is converted into the bits or digits. And same is case with the image file. You know that this image file is then converted into pixels, and then pixel is stored into different format in the memory. So file type can be any of that. You can pick the user basically, or the client can pick any of the type, file type. And the file structure can be none by default, continuous stream of bytes. You know that stream control protocol, in which we discuss about the stream of bytes. Excuse me. Record can only be used for the text files. You cannot record the whole image, or you can say the whole video transferring. But nowadays it is also possible because of the large processors that are provided at a higher cost. Or you can also basically develop a page that is the file divided into pages. You know about the dynamic links as well, so that is included over here. Each page having a different header and a number. Basically you can also have a same header, but it doesn't basically make any sense to have the same header of two different pages. So you can use different headers as well, and that can be stored in any accessed memory, or you can say sequential memory. This is RAM and this is SAM. RAM is randomly accessed memory, and this SAM is basically sequentially addressed access memory. You know about RAM, but I hope that you also know about SAM. This RAM and SAM, this is sequentially accessed memory. Mostly this randomly is used because of its benefits, but doesn't mean that SAM doesn't have any charge. It has also its applications, and for that specifications applications it is mostly used. but not in for normal customers. Transmission mode can be stream, default, block, or compress. You can do whatever you want on the data. So you can also stream it, you can block it, you can compress it. So let's talk about the commands that are there for what are the commands that can be sent during the control process. So let's take a deep look at that. So these are the some very most used commands that is used by the devices, or you can say the control processes for from the client and the server. These commands are mostly used. So the first command is basically user. It is basically an argument and it asks for the user information. You can say username. This is a password and it asks for the password from the user. And this is account to be charged. Which account information do you want to access? This is the account information. Reinitialize if you want to refresh a page or reload any file, you can reinitialize by using this command. And this is your quit and this is your abort. If you are want to abort quit the current system you are working on, you can log out using this command. And if there is a process going on and you want to abort it and you want to abort that command that you previously made, so you can use this command to abort the previous made command. So these are some very useful commands that are there for the control purposes. Let's talk about some of the commands that are there for the file management systems. So the first one is CWD, and it will change directory to another one, or you can say it will change its location. In the CMD it is basically nothing but CD, change directory. So in this mostly in this FTP protocols, this is instead of CD it is denoted with CWD, change to directory. And there is another command that is CDUP, that is change to the parent directory. Now so this is the delete file, and you can delete any file you want. You can basically the argument of this file will be this command will be the file name. Any file you want to delete from that command, you can delete as well. If you want to list, or you can see you want to look at the names, for example in CMD this is known as dir. If you run this command on your CMD, it will show all the directories with its name, list subdirectories or files. So all the files, let me tell you how this is done. Let's say I will use this CMD command, and let's say I want to see that which files are there. Let's go back in the users. Let's say I want to see that which files are there in the users folder. So if I will only run this dir, and it will show me the things that are there. So there are two directories, and basically two main directories. The first one is IT Logics and the second one is public. So there are two users actually. You can see that the users are two. The first one is IT Logics and the second one is this known as public. There are two users. So there are total of 4 directories, and there's only also one file of you can say yes, this is a file. And if you want to see this file, you can also do that. There are different commands for that as well. So this is not the course for the CMD or DOS. Let's go back. So this is another command that is known as nlist, and the argument will be the directory name. This will list all the names of subdirectories or files without their attributes. So if you do not want to see the attributes of the file or the folder or the subdirectories, you can also do that, and this command will be used. This mkd is basically make a new directory, and this same as the CMD. This mkd will be creating a new directory with the name of any one if you want to do that. So let's say I am using the CMD, and in the previous I showed you that there is only there are 4 directories, and if I want to make one another directory, I can make mkd ir. This is the command actually, and I want to name the file with my name. Okay, I am not authorized So basically I will go back to the root. So let's say I'll tell you how this is done. So let's say I am in the back of this directory and I want to go to the deep folder, and there I want to make there are several directories. You can see that there are many directories. There are a total of 47 directories and 43 files. So I want to make a directory. So in this CMD I will only run mkdir, and I want to make the, let's say, comnet, computer networks. So you can see that if now I run this dir, this will show 48 directories. And let's go into that directory that we just made. This is the comnet, and this will be an empty folder. You can see there is no files in this folder actually. So this is the working on how you can create a directory using this commands, but this is done in the FTP, not in the DOS. So that is why this is kind of resemblance. That is why I'm showing it to you, so that you can have a good idea that this is not that much of difference. The next one is pwd. Pwd is nothing but it will show you the name of the current directory, that which directory you are at this time. And the next one is rmd. It will delete a complete directory. Instead of deleting a specific file, you can also delete a complete directory, and for that you can use this rmd command. The next one is, so this command is basically used to identify a file that you want to rename, and after that you want to rename a file, you have to actually rename it. So this command will be, the next command will be used to rename that file. So first step will be you have to identify that file, and the second step will be you have to actually rename that file, and in the last you have to use this command. You can use this command to mount a file system. So you know that what is mounting. You also have, I hope that I believe that you will having an idea of ISO file or image file, and how you can mount a file system. So this type of things are done by this command that is known as smnt. Let's talk about the this was all about the control, you can say, management commands. And let's talk about the data transferring commands. So the first command is basically type, and in this command, what does this command do? This command will define a file type, if necessary, the print of a format as well. So this type will actually define that which format do you want. You want to go for the ASCII, you want to go with the EBCDIC, and or you want to go with the image file, or you want to go with the non-print or telnet. So these are different arguments that you can pass using this command. The next one is this is basically organization, or you can say structure. This is basically structure. This command is structure, stru. And what does this command do? And this will define the organization of the data, that which type of, or which hierarchical order or which chronicle order you want your data to be stored. So if you want to store in a file, you want to do it in a record, and you want to do it with a page. So these are different structures that you can follow by using these commands. And the last one is the mode, that if you want to go with the stream, you want to go with the blocks, or you want to go with the compressed type. So this will define the transmission mode, that which transmission mode you want to go with. So these are some data formatting commands that are done there. And how do you basically choose a port? So these are the active ports and passive ports command. So these are 6-digit identifier, and both these commands basically do the same thing. It chooses a port, but one is for the client and the second one is for the server. So this is for the client and this is for the server. Client will only use this command, and the server will respond with this command, because you know that server is mostly passive, and this client is mostly open, actively open, and at the very start. And these are some commands that are there to transfer the file. So this is our main theme of this lecture, that how you can transfer a file. So the first command is basically retrieve file. Which file you want to retrieve, you have to mention the name of that file, and you have to put the command of RETR. and this command will retrieve the file or files. It is totally up to you. You can see that you can retrieve a single file as well, and you can also retrieve multiple files at the same time as well. And this file will be start transferring from the client from the server to the client. And the next one is store, and this will store the files, and from the basically file are transferred but directly stored to the, instead of displaying it, you can also store it. So in the first case, let's say you have retrieved the file and now you have the file on the screen, but if you want to store it, you can use this command. This command will basically store that file onto your server from the client. You can, this is command basically, you can say to a cloud, you can upload anything towards the cloud, you can store it to the cloud. So the next one is ape, and after that you have to put the argument as the name of that file or files, and this will store the same file, except or if the file is already there, it will not be stored, but data must be append on it. So it will be doing the same thing that if you have downloaded same file more than one time. So you can see that the one is there at the append. So this is nothing but the appended form. The same file will be stored with the 1, and the same file will be stored with the 2. Excuse me. So this is known as the something that is on an appended form. The last one is store, and after that you have to put the pass the name or argument by the name of that file, and it is same as store, except the file name must be unique in the directory. However, the existing file should be not overwritten. So the first name will be the same, but it will not be overridden. This was overridden, and this case will not it will not be overridden. It will be saving it with a new name. There are some more commands, and this is lo, rest, and stat. It will return the status of the file. You will see, if you want to see the status of file, this you can use that this command as well. If you want to make a specific file, you can position a file marker or at a specific data point. If you want to store some data at a specific point, you can use this rest. And this is allocation. You have to allocate storage space for the files at the server. So you can do this as well. You have to if you want to allocate, let's say this is your server bank and you have 20 GB of it, and you want to store your 10 GB or you can say 5 GB on the images only. So you can do that. So you have to use allocate and then that file name, and this will allocate that files to the specifically at that server at that point, that is 5 GB for the images. So this command will be used because you know that management of data is also necessary. It is not in that case that you just dump your files in all one of the folder. So you can also basically create subsections, or you can say partitions in that memory space as well. These are some more commands. These are miscellaneous command. You can use that as well. For the help command, you can ask the information about the server. You can see if the server is alive or not. You can use this command. And nope, and this is a site command. It will specify the site specific commands. Basically it will only tell you the commands that are acceptable by that site, or you can say the server. And this is the system command, and this will ask the operating system used by the server. So you can also take that information, but this information is not necessarily always available from the server. Maybe there is a case that the server don't want to share its information about its operating system to you. So it is not every time possible that you get the information from the system of the server. So every FTP command generates at least one response. A response has two parts: a 3-digit number or the code followed by the text. This you can see, this is the code and this is the text. So this will be a code, and mostly by looking at the code you can just imagine the response as well. So this is the primary positive response from the code. For example, if you receive data code for 120, it will be, there is basically a map, and this is not always provided by the service providers actually, and by the if you are using, let's say, Microsoft Azure cloud, so it will provide you, they will provide you their own code list, and all of the mapping will be done over there. So you can get the codes only by looking at the codes after working a long time and after gaining a lot of experience. Just by looking the code, you will be able to know about the response, that which type of description it will be having. So this is nothing not that much difficult, but it needs time and experience to basically memorize it. So there is no need to memorize this. This is just for the explanation purposes. These are some responses that is these are basically 3 pages, or you can see that there are several responses, and all of these have different codes. So do not worry to memorize this. You just have to look on specific ones. For example, if you want to see the file status, you can go with 213. If you want to see if the data connection is open or not, you can go with this code 225. Similarly, user login OK is 23, 230 actually, and closing of data connection is 226. These are some important ones. Nothing, not everyone is important. Yes, there is 331. That's it. So this 426, connection is closed, transfer aborted. And these are many examples as well. There are many commands, so do not worry to memorize it all. Just memorize 2 or 3 or 4 important ones. You see that these are some errors, basically, where the user is not logged in, and you need account for storing any file. Mostly subscribed or any such websites that have files on it want you to log in on their account so that you can download the file. So for that you have to need an account. So for opening an account you need to store some files. So this is the command that will be used over there as well. So this was all about the first part. If you want to store the file, this is just a brief. 3 things can be done: store a file, retrieve a file, and retrieve a file list. So you can do these 3 things. If you are storing a file on the server, you can see that you can retrieve the file or retrieve the list of the file from the server. These 3 things you can do by using this FTP. So I hope that you have learned quite a lot in this lecture. I'll see you in the second part where I bring you the next protocol that is known as TFTP, that is Trivial File Transfer Protocol, and that will be all approximately same with this as one, but with the very small differences. We will talk about that differences in the second part. Make sure you write down your questions with you on white paper so that you can ask me in the class. I'll see you in the second part of the lecture. Thank you very much. Allah Hafiz.